Hi, I'm Pikachu. This is the video I presented during my creator talk at the PlayStation Experience in Las Vegas 2014. I'm going to be recreating the flying bacon scene from the TV commercial and going over some tips on how to optimize aesthetics and make a character ride on a moving object or follow a precise path. How do we create a beautiful level without overheating the thermometer? Use a versatile but limited palette. Variety takes up more space than repetition, so try to use materials, objects, and decorations that are versatile and you can use repeatedly throughout the level. I like to use color-changeable materials. You can also change the color of a material using a sticker, and you can make a sticker simply by taking a snapshot of sticker panel in any color you want. In this scene, the green wall and the brown wood trim are actually the same painted wood material that's simply been color changed so that part of it is green and part of it looks like brown wood. The refrigerator has been colored with a sticker that I made by taking a snapshot of sticker panel. Another way of changing the appearance of a material is by using a material tweaker to remove a bevel. In this case, I'm going to use the same material I used on the refrigerator for making a stove, but by adding a material tweaker and removing the bevel, I have a squared edge material instead of a rounded edge material. It's a good idea to simplify shapes whenever possible. Use rounded materials for rounded shapes to reduce the number of corners. Use the corner editor to delete corners you don't need. You can also use color-changeable decorations and place them on a sticker panel. You can change the color and the brightness of the sticker panel and it will be reflected in the decoration. Make use of effects. Effects are designed specifically to make your level look really good, but they don't take up much space on the thermometer. If you want to change the speed of an effect decoration, you can place it on a hologram material and then change the speed, and then you can change it back to sticker panel if you prefer. Effect materials are also available, and those use very little thermometer space as well. It's important to know that effect materials have no physics, so they can't detect collisions. Placing new objects in the level fills up the thermometer quickly. You can see as I place more new objects into the level, the thermometer goes up very quickly. Duplicating objects takes relatively little space, and you can see as I take an object and make duplicates of it, the thermometer doesn't go up as quickly. Some objects are also color changeable. Like this jar of jam, we can turn from strawberry to grape. That makes it more versatile in the level. Next, we're going to look at how to make a character ride on a moving object. Here we have Oddsock on a piece of bacon. We're going to recreate the flying bacon scene from the TV commercial. This logic can also be applied to the player simply by putting it on a broadcast microchip instead of on a SACBOT. To start, we're going to use a character animation tweaker, have Oddsock in a seated position, and use the override default rotation to have him oriented the way we want. To make Oddsock ride on the bacon, we're going to have him follow a mark. We do that by placing a follower and put the speed and acceleration to maximum settings. Also set it to follow tag rather than character. The next thing we do is place a tag for that follower to follow on a piece of thin material. You could use thick material if you want, it doesn't really matter. But if you use a piece of thin material, Oddsock will follow in front of that thin material, not behind it. I use sticker panel for my invisible material because there's a good chance that you use it for something decorative or visual in another part of the level anyway, so it doesn't count as a new material. You could use hologram if you like to. That's another good way to be efficient with your thermometer is by repeating materials. So sticker panel is something you're likely to already use. You might as well use it for holding your logic. So we have a tag on the thin material, Oddsock's following the tag. Next, we're going to use a rail and hook for movement. Dephysicalize the hook so it won't interfere with characters, and I like to place it right in the middle of the object, because the middle of the hook is the part that follows the rail, and it gives you a more precise movement that way. Always do your logic on a microchip, because that saves space on the thermometer, and it's easier to keep it organized. We use a toggle wired to the railhook input value and set the speed to whatever you want it to be. 6 is a good speed for this. And set the acceleration and deceleration to maximum in this case. Set the input action on the hook motor to directional. This will tell it to move forward and backwards on the rail rather than just turning on and off. Next, we'll use a tag sensor wired to the railhook engage-disengage port. This is to tell the bacon when it's going to drop off of the track and land in the frying pan. Set the tag sensor to be inverted. The signal has to be inverted so that it stays connected to the hook until it receives a signal and then it disengages. Next, we'll lay out a track of rail for the bacon to follow. The rail makes a smooth track that can go in between layers, and you can edit it using the rail editing tool. The rail is one of the useful new tools in Little Big Planet 3, and it allows you to move objects, and in this case also characters, smoothly in between layers. We need to set a tag to trigger the tag sensor for detachment. Just put that on a piece of invisible sticker panel, and you can move it into any place it's needed. Now that we have all the logic set up, we're ready to do a run-through. Place the bacon on the rail, and we'll see how it looks when it plays through. It just needs a few adjustments, and Oddsock can ride the bacon and fall into the frying pan. Now we just need him to slide off the bacon and fall into the butter. We'll use a selector to turn Oddsock's tag follower off and on. We want him to start out with the tag follower triggered so that he's following his mark, and then he'll switch off and he'll slide off into the butter. An important thing to know about selectors is that if multiple ports are activated, number 2 will override number 1, number 3 overrides number 2, and so on. The higher number always takes priority. We'll use another tag sensor to turn Oddsock's follower off and on, and place a corresponding tag down the track where we want him to drop off into the butter. You can just duplicate the object with the tag on it and change the color of the tag to match the color of the tag sensor. And with a few adjustments, Oddsock slides off into the butter. You can also use this same method for creating a precise path that a character follows without having them actually ride on any sort of object. In this case, we'll create a precise flight path for Swoop using the rail and hook. This is the same method I used for other scenes in the TV commercial, like the Mars rover. Same as before, we start out with a character animation tweaker, and we get Swoop doing whatever we want. In this case, we just have him flying, and set his orientation to face the way we want him to face. Use a tag follower, and always set your followers to maximum speed and acceleration for this purpose. At this point, I might be running out of tag colors to use, so I'm going to use a label. You can always label your tags, and it's a good way to stay organized. Then we'll draw out a path for Swoop to follow using the rail. The rail can be carefully edited to create a precise path. If you use a Sackbot acting technique, you only have one shot to get it right. Using a rail, you can always edit the path later. Always remember to set your rail hook and your rail to be invisible in play mode if you don't want them to be seen. And remember to dephysicalize your rail hook. It's very important because Swoop's going to be following right on top of that hook, and if he interacts with it at all, it'll ruin his flight. Now Swoop is following his path, but he's not rotating to point in the correct direction. So we want to make Swoop actually rotate to face the way that he's flying. There's two ways of doing this. You can use a rocket rotator with the speed and strength set at maximum. A rocket rotator just makes the object or character that it's placed on point in the direction that they're moving. Or you can use a look-at rotator. You can set the look-at rotator to look at the same tag that Swoop is following and set the speed and strength to maximum. Whichever way you do it, you need to make sure that your rotator is pointed in the direction that the character is facing. So in this case we have Swoop pointed to the left. We want the rotator pointed to the left also so that he follows that mark. And with a few adjustments, Swoop is following his path and he's pointed in the right direction the entire time. Characters can't be glued or bolted to anything, so we use followers instead. That's the conclusion of the presentation I gave at the PlayStation Experience in Las Vegas 2014. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed.